Welcome to Kara's Cures, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness. I'm Kara Sundlun, and today's episode is sponsored by the Center for Advanced Reproductive Services in Farmington. So, should you let your kids quit? And how can you help them stick with something even when it's difficult? Joining us now is Renee Jain. She is the founder of GoZen and best-selling author of Superpowered, to talk to us about how you can actually teach grit. Welcome, Renee. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about grit.
Yeah, well, tell us, I guess you were not the grittiest kid.
Oh my goodness. I was anti-gritty, if there is such a thing. I thought that when you started doing something, playing a sport or doing an academics thing, that you started off good. I thought that if you tried math and you weren't good at it, then I guess you just were never going to be good at it. So I had a classic fixed mindset, and I was not gritty. I would quit. I would give up easily. And frankly, my parents are amazing, but they didn't really push me at all. They were like, oh, you want to quit? Okay, fine. No problem.
And so, you know, I've had this situation with a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. One more than the other will get really into something, and then all of a sudden I hate it, I don't want to go. And sometimes they do come to you and say, I'm done, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to practice tonight, or I want to quit something. How do you handle that when your kids want to quit?
Yeah, it's so hard. It happens to all of us. It happens to us as adults. It definitely happens as a kid. And you're in this precarious situation when you're a parent. You're like, oh my goodness, am I allowing them to quit? But if I'm not letting them quit, am I pushing them too much? And so there is definitely a delicate balance that you are walking. But I think the conversation needs to be had in advance. You are signing up for this thing, whether it be ballet or whatever it is. If it's a sport or it's something academic, it doesn't matter. And you're going to follow through with this. And there are going to be days where you don't want to go. We're all there. There are going to be times when it's totally frustrating and you want to quit, but you're going to follow through and finish. So that way you've at least planted the seed that, yeah, it's totally normal when you're doing something hard, when you're growing your brain and you're growing your skills, that you get exhausted, or maybe you're just having a bad day. We all have them. So I think if you have the conversation in advance, then when your kids are coming to you saying, oh my goodness, I don't want to go to practice, I don't want to do this thing, you can say, yeah, I totally hear you, and we're doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the other point is, you said schools are really trying to teach growth mindset, because there's a lot of science behind the fact that one of the most successful things we need to be successful adults is a growth mindset. But you say we might be getting this a little mixed up. Maybe we're glamorizing making mistakes a little too much or in the wrong way.
Yeah, so it's so interesting. Carol Dweck is a psychologist out of Stanford, and she really popularized this idea of growth mindset. She wrote a book called Mindset, and educators and parents got so excited because the research shows that if you believe through effort, you can improve your abilities and increase your intelligence, you have a growth mindset. It's a belief system. So teachers were like, oh my goodness, let's just teach everyone that you can get better at things. And they started hanging up signs that say, mistakes make your brain grow, and just make an effort. And we really just focused on language. But here's the thing. If I have a belief that I can run a marathon, that doesn't mean I can actually run the marathon. That's just a starting point. So having a growth mindset and really adopting a language that, yeah, I can do something, I can improve, I can make an effort, that's just the beginning. Then you actually have to do the work and do the practice. And this whole idea around mistakes is great. I'm glad that we're allowing for mistakes, but it's not the mistake where the learning happens. It's after the mistake, right? It's let's evaluate this mistake. Okay, you came home with a piece of paper with mistakes all over it. Were they sloppy mistakes? Were you just tired and not focused? Were they stretch mistakes? Were you really trying something out of your comfort zone? Or were they distress mistakes? Were you totally stressed out, jittery, nervous, and this made you distressed? Let's evaluate those mistakes and dig into them.
Yeah, so when your kid makes a mistake, I guess, rather than saying, yay, you made a mistake, it's a step on the way, failure is a step on the way to success, we would then say more, try to teach what you are going to learn from.
Yeah, kids come home all the time with my kids still come home with red marks on their paper. I don't know if all schools are still doing this, but it could say like minus something at the top and they're so hyper focused on those things that they got wrong. And instead of going, "Yay, you made a mistake," as you said, one thing that we could do is sit down and say, "Okay, it looks like, 7 opportunities to learn here. So, where are we going from here? Let's look at every single one, or let's just look at one of them and figure out what went wrong. Did you not know the process of doing this? Is it something that it's totally brand new to you?" So, I think it's super important that kids learn that. And then another thing that is incredibly important to teach our kids is that they're not performing all the time. There are different goals that we have. There are performance goals where maybe you're taking a test or maybe you have a recital, and that's when you really want to perform to your best, almost quote unquote perfectly. And then there are learning goals. And most of the time when we're in school, we are in a learning goal environment. That's when you're making mistakes, when you're getting frustrated, when you're learning. So we're not performing in those times, and we really need to teach kids the difference.
So, we are in a hyper-focused culture on performance. And I think as parents, when our kids come home and maybe they got a bad grade on something, or we can tend to focus on, all right, I'm supposed to let them make a mistake, but look, this wasn't very good. Where's the balance there?
Yeah, it's really hard for us as parents because we're always looking out for our kids' best. We want their future to be good. We want them to be, if you ask any parent, what do they want? I want them to be happy. I want them to be successful. And we all have our different definition of that. But when we see them come home with a bad grade, that starts to chip away at this idea that their future is going to be good. Oh my goodness, they don't know what they're doing in school, and then they're going to fail out of college, and then they're not going to get a good job, and everything is going to fall apart. So, first thing is, as a parent, is we need to create space for ourselves. Your kid has come home with a bad grade. Is it ideal? No, but it is communication to you. So, what's going on? Are they overwhelmed? Do they really not understand? Is there something? What's underneath that? Let's get curious, because I know a lot of us, for our go to is, well, listen, you have to get your grades up. I mean, there's no other choice. And that can work in the short term, but in the long term, it doesn't solve the root of the issue.
So, kids need to learn frustration. I think some kids have a lower frustration tolerance, maybe just like adults than some. So what do you do when your kid is really melting down a lot because they're frustrated? How can you teach that grit?
So I was talking earlier about not being such a gritty kid. And especially I remember when it came to sports, I didn't have a ton of raw talent. So I specifically remember, playing tennis with my dad. He was trying to teach me. The ball comes to me, I miss it, and I take my racket and I throw it. That was my go-to. I would throw game boards, I would throw rackets, I would throw golf clubs, I would just toss it. So one day he said to me, "Listen, we're about to start this game and you're going to get frustrated. And what is an alternative that you can do when you get really upset instead of throwing this racket for the millionth time? What can you do?" And so he made me make a plan, a frustration plan, and that stuck with me. So kids will get frustrated. It's not our job to say, "Don't ever get frustrated, just calm down, just relax." It's our job to teach them what to do in the moment and to make that plan in advance. So if you have a kid that gets frustrated a lot, make a frustration plan and then know that sometimes it'll work and sometimes it'll fail, but at least they have a plan.
Okay, I love that. So a lot of it is preemptive. The more we do before.
A lot of it is preemptive. A lot of it is maintaining our own self regulation. And for kids, what we know about kids is that until they're the age of 25 to 30 years old, they need our help to regulate their emotions. Co-regulation happens all the way through, early adulthood. And so when they are melting down, they need us to be the calm in their storm. They really, truly do. So it really is about, reining in our own emotions and being able to kind of guide them and navigate through those big feelings.
So what do you do when you're the parent who also has a low frustration tolerance?
Yeah, a lot of us do. And this is a lot, it can take a lifetime to master. You practice alongside your kids and you be authentic and you're like, "This is hard for me too." When you come home with a bad grade, it's frustrating for me too. And now I have to practice what I do in the moment, just like you do. And I think it's okay. We don't always have to be this perfect human. It took me so long to figure out my parents weren't perfect. I grew up and I'm like, oh my goodness, you made a ton of mistakes, huh? And you still do. And I think it's okay to show our kids our humanity. That doesn't take away our ability to be an authority in their life and our ability to guide them.
You have so many great tips, and I think this interview is one. We can listen to it with our kids, or at least listen to it on your own and get some strategies. But you founded GoZen, and it's actually a membership community, or you can just sign up for the free newsletter. I think we might even have some of the graphics that you've suggested, that we might put up there, like I can ask for help, or I think another one is I can do hard things. Here's that one. And learning has no limits is another one. So what do you recommend, that parents just keep repeating this, or do we put these around our house? Sometimes we have to learn too, right?
You know what? There is nothing wrong with having an affirmation or a go-to mantra that you just repeat to yourself, especially when you're trying to weather the storm. You repeat it over and over again. But all of those sayings have actions that get taken after them. But yeah, it can be a family manifesto. We do hard things as a family.
Is it hard? I mean, I'm not going to say, is it harder with teens? It's always harder with teens. But once you get to the teen stage where they don't kind of want to listen to you anymore, and at that point, you just mentioned that kids really need our help to regulate their emotions till 25 or 30. So clearly as a teenager, they need it too. But there's a different balance there, it seems, because they don't want you interfering too much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember being a teen and looking at my parents and thinking, you know what? They don't get it. And I think what we need to do, our primary goal when we're raising a teen, is to have our teen look at us and know that we do get it. I am connected to you. I get that you're going through, all this turmoil, your hormones are wild, you're overwhelmed with all the stuff you have to do in school. The future is uncertain. There's lots of things going on in the world, and I get you. And I think that if our teens aren't talking to us, they're not connected to us. So our goal should be one goal only. How do we connect to our teens? How do we attune to them? How do we get them to look at us and think, you know what? My parent gets it. I might not be agreeing with them on everything and vice versa, but that's a person I want to turn to and talk to.
There was a TED Talk that mentioned that, and we did this with our child psychologist who comes on Great Day Connecticut all the time, that one factor, they looked at every factor that would indicate success when you got older, whether you had parents with education, better socioeconomic status, resources, race. And the one thing that mattered more than anything else was this growth mindset. So it's really important that we teach this and maybe learn it ourselves.
Absolutely. We're all dealt a certain hand, right? When we're born, some of us may have some more raw ability when it comes to athletics, or, maybe some of us have an English brain or a math brain or a science brain or whatever. But putting in effort, purposeful effort, deliberate practice, it really can make a difference. And what it does is it teaches you that you have control to change things in your life, that you actually can make a difference for yourself. Because imagine waking up every day and feeling like, well, nothing I do actually makes a difference in my life. It leads to depression, right? It leads to anxiety. So we're empowering our kids and telling them you have control. There are things that you can do to make your life great.
Yeah, and let me just ask you, because there are those kids who are, I guess, more neurotypical, who might, okay, sure, I'll try it. And then there's the kids who perhaps are on the spectrum, or they have ADHD, and they're already wired to kind of melt down more with frustration. Is the teaching the same? Because growth mindset matters to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the teaching can be the same. The way in which we teach it, this breaking down the steps into smaller chunks can be helpful. Taking a little bit longer on each step can be helpful. And just knowing that progress is really measured in years, for everyone, and not in days. And we're all unique, and we're all on a unique path. And no matter where we are on, whether we're neurotypical or neurodiverse, that we have incredible strengths. And kids Of all age, humans of all ages need to remember this on a daily basis. So yeah, I think the skills are totally universal. We make them accessible by breaking them down and using different language for different types of kids.
I'll just give you a moment to explain how GoZen can help, because you can go to GoZen and I guess you get your wisdom broken down in chunks.
That's right. We make bite-sized animations to teach kids skills of resilience, skills of well-being. And so basically we teach through cartoons and through games. And you can go to GoZen. We have lots of different programs and lots of printables. We give away a lot of stuff, and then we have premium resources as well.
Okay, perfect. So GoZen.com. And of course, you're also the co-author of the book Superpowered, which I haven't gotten a chance to read yet, but I'm going to guess that I need to, and that it means that we identify our superpower and keep trying.
Yeah, it means that anxiety is the basis of this book, and what do you do when you're anxious? And so what we try to teach kids is that you are nothing broken to fix. This is not a book that you pick up because there's something wrong with you. You came into the world with incredible superpowers, which is why the book is called Superpowered. And we don't just pat kids on the back and say, yay, you're superpowered and you're great. We actually methodically go through and show kids several of their superpowers. So we go through 5 of their superpowers. And then we say, yeah, sometimes things go out of whack. Sometimes our worry exaggerates and gets hyperbolic. And this is how to rein that stuff back in. But at the end of the day, you came into the world with incredible strengths. And so we're just getting you back to who you really are. That's what the book is about.
I love it. Do they read it on their own, or do we read it to them, or how does that work?
So people have used it in different ways. They can totally read it on their own. It's meant for them to be able to read on their own. We have found that many parents are reading it on their own as well for their inner child, to heal their inner child. You can read it as a family as well.
Yes, just try to get out the door quickly when there's not enough time and see if the parent can stay calm.
That's right. Exactly.
We're all learning, right? Progress, not perfection. I love it.
We are all a work in progress.
All right, Renee Jain, thank you so much. And for more information, I want to let everyone know they can visit GoZen.com. Thanks for being here, Renee.
Thanks, Kara.
And for more information that inspires the cutting edge of wellness, you can always go to Kara's Cures on the WFSB streaming news app. We have many more episodes. You can listen on my Kara's Cures podcast, download it on your favorite platform. You can also follow me on social media at Kara Sundlun. I post these interviews there. Have a great, be well.